Well, if you grew up playing beat 'em up games, you know damn well there's something pretty special about Streets of Rage, specifically 2. It's not just because it's one of the greatest ever made, because it is, but because it represents a time when games were simple in just the right way. You picked a fighter, stepped onto the streets, fought your way through waves of criminals while one of the greatest soundtracks in gaming history blasted through the speakers. More than 30 years later, people still talk about it. And that's why the idea of a Streets of Rage 2 remake just keeps generating so much excitement. In fact, while Sega has not officially announced a dedicated Streets of Rage 2 remake, well, the company has confirmed that a brand new Streets of Rage revival project remains in development as part of its larger effort to bring back classics. And recent materials have referred to the project as Streets of Rage Revolution. And honestly, if there is one classic entry that deserves a modern rebuild, it might just be Streets of Rage 2. The important thing is preserving the soul of the game. Streets of Rage 2 never needed complicated systems. Its magic actually came from great combat, the memorable levels, the non-stop momentum, the great music, and a remake should build on that foundation rather than replace it. Honestly, modern technology could make those classic locations look incredible now. Ever since Streets of Rage 4 surprised everybody back in 2020, the franchise has had new energy around it again. What made that game special wasn't just nostalgia, it proved that the old formula still works when it's handled with care. The fast combat, the incredible music, the clean animations, the satisfying co-op gameplay, people remembered why they loved these games in the first place. The success of Streets of Rage 4 also reminded Sega that there's still a massive audience for classic arcade-style action games, especially when developers respect the identity of the originals instead of just completely reinventing the whole thing. That's why the rumors around a remake specifically focused on Streets of Rage 2 or maybe even 1 have started recently gaining real traction. Because if Sega ever decided to build one game from the series, it would almost certainly be this one. To many fans, you see, Streets of Rage 2 wasn't just the best entry in the franchise, it was the peak of the entire genre. The original game introduced the world, the third experimented with difficulty and mechanics, but Streets of Rage 2 perfected the balance. The combat felt heavier, the visuals looked sharper, it was deeper, the soundtrack became legendary, and every stage just had personality, from rain-covered city streets to amusement parks and the industrial hideouts glowing under the neon lights. What a nostalgia. Even today, the game still feels stylish in a way most modern beat-em-up games pretty much struggle to match. And well, obviously that's what makes the idea of a remake so damn interesting. Because this isn't a game people want radically changed, they want it elevated. And there's a huge difference actually between these two things. According to ongoing speculation online, Sega has reportedly been exploring more remakes and revivals of classic franchises after seeing the success of projects like, Persona 3 Reload, Shinobi, A Crazy Taxi, Jet Set Radio. That alone has pushed fans to believe Streets of Rage is likely part of those future plans in some form. And honestly, it makes perfect sense. Because unlike many old games that would require complete redesigns to work today, Streets of Rage 2 already has an incredible strong foundation. The gameplay remains pretty smooth, the pacing still works, the co-op structure is timeless. A remake wouldn't need to reinvent the formula or anything in that matter, it would just simply need to modernize the presentation while expanding the systems carefully and add enough new content. That's a dream fans are imagining right now. Picture those original stages rebuilt with modern technology while still keeping the handcrafted style and the atmosphere that define the game. The streets, the crowded nightclubs filled with the movements and the dynamic lighting, smoke drifting through the alleyways while electric music pulses in the background. The city itself could become far more alive without losing that classic arcade energy. And, music might be the single most important part of it all. Because Streets of Rage 2 without its soundtrack simply wouldn't be Streets of Rage at all. That's right, Yuzo Koshiro's work on the original game is still considered one of the greatest soundtracks in gaming history. Those tracks didn't just support the gameplay, they defined it. The music created mood before players even understood what the levels were trying to say visually. A remake would need to preserve that identity pretty carefully, whether through remastered tracks, rearranged versions, or entirely new compositions inspired by the originals. And if done right, the soundtrack alone could carry enormous emotional weight for returning players. Because hearing those melodies again with modern audio production would really hit hard, especially for people who actually grew up with the music and the series themselves. Now, gameplay is where things become specifically exciting. See, Streets of Rage 4 already showed how beautifully the classic formula can evolve while remaining recognizable. The combat felt smooth but still heavy, characters had personality in the way that they moved and fought, animations carried impact, and a remake of Streets of Rage 2 could build on that philosophy while staying faithful to the original structure. Axel could feel slower but devastatingly powerful. Blaze could move with faster combos and evasive new attacks. Skid speed could become even more dynamic with modern movement systems, and Max could feel like an unstoppable wall of destruction. The important thing is making every hit feel satisfying. That's always been the soul of great beat-em-up games, not realism, impact. Players should feel punches, connect through the animations, the sound, and the timing. The best beat-em-up games actually create rhythm, almost like fighting games mixed with music. And Streets of Rage 2 always understood that better than most. Now, another fascinating possibility is the online co-op, being done properly from the beginning. The original game became legendary partly because of the couch co-op memories, siblings, friends, their teamwork, accidental friendly fires. A modern remake could preserve that spirit while allowing seamless online play, matchmaking, larger multiplayer features without damaging the classic structure. And in today's gaming landscape, there's something refreshing about a focused experience like this. No giant open world, no endless grind, no bloated systems, just stylish combat, memorable music, and a city overflowing with atmosphere. That simplicity is part of why people still love these games. At the same time, a remake could deepen the world itself slightly more than the original ever could. The old games relied heavily on environmental storytelling because of hardware limitations. Players understood the city was collapsing into crime and corruption simply by looking at the environment. We think a remake could subtly expand that through background details, more cinematic transitions, and more reactive locations while still keeping that arcade pacing all the way intact. Because the city in Streets of Rage almost feels like a character itself. It is dirty, dangerous, alive at night, and that atmosphere matters just as much as the combat. Honestly, modern gaming could use more of that same energy. A remake done correctly wouldn't just bring back an old game, it would bring back a feeling. So here's the thing, for now, the remake remains speculation, but with Sega actively investing in new Streets of Rage projects and classic franchise revivals, fans have every reason to believe the series' future is far from over. And if Streets of Rage 2 ever gets the full remake treatment, it could be one of the easiest nostalgia wins Sega has ever had. A timeless game rebuilt for a new generation while still remembering exactly what made people fall in love with it right in the first place.